My beloved child, do not move past these words as though they appeared before you by accident, because something extraordinary is unfolding behind the ordinary moments of this day, and the next 3 hours carry a turning point you have not yet been able to see. You may have entered this moment expecting nothing unusual. You may have been carrying the same questions you carried yesterday, wondering when something would finally shift, when clarity would finally replace uncertainty, when the waiting would finally make sense. But Archangel Michael comes into this fictional spiritual message with a declaration of hope. Very good news is approaching, and what makes this moment powerful is not merely the news itself, but the chain of events surrounding its arrival. Stay with me. Don't look away now. There is a reason the answer did not arrive yesterday, and there is a reason certain things seemed strangely quiet before today. Sometimes the greatest changes begin without noise. A door does not always announce itself before it opens. A person does not always reveal what they have decided while they are still gathering the courage to speak. A situation does not always show you that it is changing while everything is being rearranged beneath the surface. This is where the story begins. Imagine a room you cannot see. Imagine a conversation taking place beyond your awareness. Imagine someone looking at something connected to you, a message, a name, a memory, an opportunity, a decision, and suddenly realizing that the next move belongs to them. They have delayed. They have questioned. They have gone back and forth. But something changed. And that change is why these next 3 hours become symbolic in this story. Not because a clock controls your destiny, but because there are moments when waiting reaches its final page and movement begins. Your answer is closer than you think. You have been asking yourself why certain things became slow when you were ready for them to move quickly. You wondered why someone became silent when you expected honesty. You wondered why an opportunity seemed close and then disappeared behind another delay. You wondered whether you had misunderstood everything. But what if the silence was not an ending? What if the delay was rearranging the pieces? What if something had to become clear somewhere else before it could become clear to you? Stay till the end, because there is one detail about the approaching good news that changes the meaning of everything you have recently experienced. Something huge is waiting for you. Not because you are being asked to believe an impossible promise, but because this story is about the moment when uncertainty finally gives way to understanding. Picture Archangel Michael standing at the edge of a great golden doorway, not bringing fear, not bringing darkness, but carrying the symbolism of courage, clarity, protection, and truth. Behind that doorway are 3 lights. The first represents something you thought had been forgotten. The second represents something being decided without your knowledge. The third represents something returning in a form you did not expect. And the mystery is this: only one of those lights appears brightest at first, yet the quietest one carries the greatest surprise. Don't skip. The message is not simply that good news is coming. The deeper revelation is that you may have been watching the wrong door. You expected the breakthrough to arrive from one direction, through one person, through one opportunity, through one exact outcome. You kept looking there because that was where your heart had placed its expectations. But while your attention remained fixed on that door, another path began opening. Quietly. Almost invisibly. And this is where the emotional twist begins. Something you interpreted as rejection may have redirected you towards something better suited to who you have become. Something you interpreted as being forgotten may actually have been waiting for the right moment to return. Something you believed was permanently closed may not need to reopen at all, because a different entrance is appearing. Stay with me. There is another layer. Somewhere in your recent past, there was a moment when you almost stopped expecting anything beautiful from this situation. You told yourself you would simply continue. You became quieter about what you wanted. You stopped explaining certain feelings. You learned to carry unanswered questions without letting everyone see them. Yet there remained one private thought you could never completely release: there has to be a reason this happened this way. That question becomes important now. Because in this symbolic message, Archangel Michael does not arrive merely to say that something pleasant is approaching. He arrives to reveal the meaning behind the timing. The next 3 hours represent a narrow bridge between what you assumed and what you are about to understand. What comes next changes everything. The first sign may be small. It could be an unexpected shift in your mood, a sudden thought about something you had almost forgotten, a conversation taking a different direction, a name appearing at an unusual moment, or an ordinary event that causes you to see an old situation differently. Do not become obsessed with searching for signs. Simply remain present enough to notice when clarity arrives naturally. Because the strongest spiritual symbolism is not always thunder in the sky. Sometimes it is peace arriving where confusion used to live. Sometimes it is finally understanding why something could not happen earlier. Sometimes it is recognizing that you no longer want the thing you once begged life to give you. And sometimes the surprise is realizing that what you wanted has changed because you have changed. Don't look away now. There is a second symbolic sign in this story, and it is connected to a key. Archangel Michael places a silver key into your hand, but when you look toward the obvious door, the key does not fit. You try again. Nothing. For a moment, you wonder why you were given a key that seems useless. Then Michael turns your attention toward a smaller doorway hidden behind you. You had walked past it repeatedly because it did not look impressive. There was no grand entrance, no bright sign, no announcement telling you that something important waited behind it. Yet the key fits perfectly. That is the revelation. The thing that changes your direction may arrive looking smaller than the thing you originally wanted. The first message may look ordinary. The first opportunity may appear simple. The first conversation may begin casually. The first realization may feel almost too quiet to matter. But do not underestimate quiet beginnings. A single sentence can change a relationship. A single decision can redirect a year. A single piece of information can make months of confusion suddenly understandable. A single unexpected opportunity can become the beginning of something far larger. Stay till the end. The third symbolic sign is even more personal. Michael shows you an hourglass, but the sand is not falling downward. It begins moving upward. Impossible in the natural world, yet perfect as symbolism. Something you believed was running out may actually be rebuilding. Your confidence. Your hope. Your ability to trust yourself. Your willingness to believe that life still contains surprises. This is why the title speaks with such urgency. The mistake would not be missing some magical deadline. The mistake would be becoming so convinced that nothing can change that you fail to recognize change when it finally arrives. That is the real message. Do not allow yesterday's disappointment to write today's conclusion before today has finished speaking. Something huge is waiting for you in the next part of this revelation, because the good news has a connection to something you once quietly released. And when you understand what that connection is, the timing of everything begins to look completely different. There is a moment, my child, when the atmosphere of a story changes before any character understands why, and you are standing at that moment now. Stay with me, because what seemed like a simple promise of good news is becoming something deeper. The symbolic 3-hour window is divided into 3 movements, and each carries a different revelation. The first movement is recognition. Something becomes clear. The second movement is confirmation. Something that once felt uncertain begins making sense. The third movement is movement itself, the point when understanding becomes action. But here is the surprising part: the good news may not begin with someone saying, "I have good news." It may begin with a correction. Something you believed about yourself, another person, or a situation may turn out to have been incomplete. Imagine believing someone walked away because you did not matter, only to discover they were struggling with a decision they did not know how to communicate. Imagine believing an opportunity disappeared because you were not enough, only to realize that its timing would have taken you somewhere you no longer belong. Imagine believing you were being delayed, only to discover that the delay prevented you from accepting something smaller than what later became possible. This is where the story begins again, but from a completely different angle. Don't skip. The mystery becomes stronger here. In the symbolic scene, Michael leads you into a long corridor lined with mirrors. Every mirror shows a different version of the same past event. In one mirror, you see disappointment. In another, rejection. In another, loneliness. In another, confusion. But Michael walks past all of them until reaching the final mirror, and that mirror does not show the past. It shows you standing differently. Stronger. Calmer. Less desperate for validation. More capable of recognizing what deserves your energy. Then the mirror disappears and becomes a window. That transformation is the message. You were never meant to spend forever staring backward trying to decode every detail of what happened. Eventually the mirror must become a window. Eventually reflection must become vision. Eventually the question, "Why did this happen?" becomes, "What can happen now?" Your answer is closer than you think. There is someone, somewhere in this symbolic story, who underestimated the depth of what you carried silently. They saw your calm and assumed you were unaffected. They saw you continue and assumed nothing had touched you. They saw you stop asking questions and thought you no longer cared. But they misunderstood your silence. Your silence was not emptiness. It was transformation. You were learning that you could care deeply without chasing answers forever. You were learning that your worth could not depend on another person's timing. You were learning that unanswered questions do not have to become permanent wounds in your identity. And now comes the emotional twist: when you finally stopped trying to force clarity, clarity began moving toward you. Don't look away now. The approaching news is connected to a decision that could not have been made while you were still trying to control every possible outcome. Something needed space. Someone needed perspective. You needed growth. And once those pieces began aligning, the situation started changing. What comes next changes everything, because Michael reveals another symbol, a sealed envelope resting beneath a white feather. You reach toward it, but he stops your hand. Not yet. First, he asks you to remember the thing you wanted most several months ago. Hold that thought. Now ask yourself whether you still want it in exactly the same form. Something has changed, hasn't it? Perhaps your standards became clearer. Perhaps you stopped accepting half-hearted effort. Perhaps you learned that being chosen means very little if you must abandon yourself to receive that choice. Perhaps you discovered that peace matters more than being right. Perhaps you realized that love without honesty cannot satisfy you, success without meaning cannot fulfill you, and opportunity without alignment cannot hold you. This is why the envelope remains sealed. Because before the good news can mean something, you must understand the person receiving it is no longer the same person who originally asked for it. Stay with me. Michael finally allows the envelope to open. Inside there is no check, no impossible guarantee, no prediction written like a contract with tomorrow. There are only 4 words: you were being prepared. And suddenly every symbol becomes clearer. The key. The hidden door. The reversed hourglass. The mirrors becoming windows. The silence before movement. Preparation rarely feels exciting while you are inside it. It often feels like waiting. It can look like repetition. It can feel as though nothing is happening. But preparation changes what you can hold when the opportunity finally arrives. Had certain answers arrived earlier, you might have accepted them without asking whether they were right for you. Had certain people returned earlier, you might have welcomed them without requiring the growth necessary for something healthier. Had certain opportunities appeared earlier, you might have entered them without the wisdom to recognize their true value. The delay did something to you. It taught you discernment. It taught you patience without passivity. It taught you how to hear your own instincts beneath the noise of expectation. Something huge is waiting for you. Not necessarily because the world is about to transform in one dramatic second, but because one piece of good news can confirm that the season has already begun changing. And here is the once-in-a-lifetime revelation hidden inside this message: sometimes the miracle is not getting back what disappeared. Sometimes the miracle is becoming someone who no longer needs the old outcome in order to feel complete. Then, from that place, something better can finally reach you without becoming your identity. Stay till the end, because there is still one final symbol Michael has not shown you, and it explains why the words, "next 3 hours," carry such emotional power in this story. 3 has always carried powerful symbolism: beginning, middle, completion, thought, word, action, yesterday, today, tomorrow. Here it represents transition. Hour 1 symbolizes release. Hour 2 symbolizes revelation. Hour 3 symbolizes reception. First, release the belief that nothing good can happen because something disappointed you before. Then allow revelation to